Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. Identity theft protection for taxpayers in 6 steps. IRS Tax Tip 2021-77, June 1st, 2021. Thieves are actively working to steal the taxpayer information and identities. Everyone should do everything they can to prevent identity theft. Tax-related identity theft occurs when someone uses a taxpayer's stolen personal information, such as a social security number, to file a tax return claiming a false refund. The IRS and its partners are working hard to prevent these types of crimes, and taxpayers can help by doing their part in stopping identity theft. Here are some tips to help taxpayers protect themselves against identity theft. Taxpayers should always use security software. This software should have a firewall and antivirus protection. So you're going to want the security software on the computer, hopefully to give you that firewall and antivirus. Use strong, unique passwords. They should also consider using Password Manager. So clearly these days, you're going to be logging into more things with all the different kind of social media and other types of accounts that you're going to be logging into. And it's important to have unique passwords. So any password that you can actually memorize that actually has a word related to it is probably not that unique, and it's probably going to be something that people might be able to guess or use just simply brute force to basically be able to crack a password if they were to use some kind of software to do that. And in order to make a password that is unique, then and somewhat strong, then sometimes it's, of course, much more difficult to remember it. So this password manager, something like a LastPass or some other kind of managers, can be quite useful, especially if you're using the same kind of machines, the same computers, because you can basically use them to hopefully sort your passwords. There's pros and cons to using something like that, because then you have to have a master password that, and everything being centralized. If someone cracked the master password, then they might have access to it, and you have to make sure you don't forget the master password. But that could be one way to basically decentralize, and you might want to research that more if you're struggling with all the different passwords that you're trying to memorize and make them strong and whatnot. Look up on YouTube or something like that, using something like a password manager, and see if that would be something that could help you. So learn to recognize and avoid phishing emails, threatening calls, and texts from thieves. These scammers pose as legitimate organizations such as banks, credit card companies, and even the IRS. So it's incredible how bold these kind of scammers can be these days. They basically just outright, claim to be these kind of institutions, even government institutions like the IRS, and then they'll basically use some kind of threatening thing, usually such as take action or you're not going to get a stimulus payment, or take action if you want this to be done, or we're going to take action against you if you don't do some particular thing, some type of fear that would be involved in their emails. And so you, of course, want to get good at seeing those and being able to recognize, okay, that's most likely a phishing email. And if something looks legitimate, because they're getting better and better at these things, they're always altering these, and it seems more and more difficult to basically regulate them, the processing of them, and track them all down. Then you want to go to the source typically. So if they were to say scamming the IRS or something like that, and say, if you don't respond to this within 2 hours, we're gonna do something terrible to you, then you probably want to go to the IRS website themselves and then track the source instead of going from the email. That's going to be the general rule. It takes a little bit more time to do that, and that's what, of course, the phishing email is designed to do, to frighten you to take immediate action. What you want to do instead is stop, and then go to the website itself and do the research in a more thorough way that might take a little bit more time. So don't click on links in unsolicited email messages from unknown senders. People shouldn't click on links or download attachments from emails that seem suspicious, even if they appear to be from a sender they know. So that clearly is another kind of way that they will do this. They're going to basically try to say that if they can get someone else's access to their email list, or something that looks like someone else's email that you know, then they'll send those out, once again trying to get you to respond, incentivizing some kind of fear factor that you should have some social responsibility to respond to this or that. And so be aware of that, of course. So protect personal information and that of any dependents. For example, people shouldn't routinely carry around their social security cards. They should also make sure tax records are secure. So you want to make sure, of course, that the tax records are secure, because they have the social security number and that type of information related to it. Get an identity protection PIN. The identity protection PIN, the PIN, is a 6-digit code known only to the taxpayer and the IRS that helps prevent identity theft from filing fraudulent tax returns using a taxpayer's personal identity information. So the PIN is something that's relatively new still, and that will prevent people from basically being able to file the tax return on your behalf and stealing the information. Possibly, usually when they're trying to do this, they're trying to get these refundable credits, which have gone up now, which has an increased incentive for scammers to try to get identities so that they can possibly take advantage of these refundable credits fraudulently, by filing tax returns. Such as the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. One way to prevent that, and note that your social security number, you've had it your entire life, and every financial institution that you deal with basically wants your social security number. And so you think that it could quite possibly be out there, right? So it could be possible that someone could file the tax return basically with your social security number. So it would be nice if you had a number that kind of changed from year to year, so that doesn't happen. And this is one way that you can basically do that, at least with the IRS. You could try to be proactive, get another identity number, which will basically vary from year to year, and that'll make it much more difficult for someone to steal your identity, at least with regards to tax preparation, which can be a tedious process, because if you try to file your tax return and someone else already filed it using your information, then the software or whatever you tried to file it with is going to kick it back and say you can't file because that has been taken already. And then you're going to have to go through this whole process that basically says, no, that was theft, and we got to verify the identity. And then you'll need to get a PIN anyways after that point in time if the identity theft happened. So it's a protection type of measure, but the IRS is thinking that it's a good idea to do. So it can look into that. So more information can be found at the links below. We got the publication 4524, the Security Awareness of Taxpayers, publication 5367, Identity Protection PIN Opt-in Program for Taxpayers, the Identity Theft Central Taxpayer Guide to Identity Theft. There's links to those items here. There'll be a link to this in the description.